Hello. I just watched Deadpool and Wolverine yesterday, and I wanted to give my review on it because I've been a little anxious about this movie. I haven't been the most anticipated for it. I haven't been anticipated for a Marvel movie in a long time. I know that I made the reaction video to it, and I know that it has my face going on it on the cover. And I did think that in that trailer, I gave my honest opinion. I was like, okay, yeah, those look cool. Um, but I was not very optimistic with with it. Even if I was like, okay, this might be cool. Because I mean, I like the Deadpool movies. I think the Deadpool movies are really good. Obviously not masterpieces of cinema or whatever, but they're certainly up there whenever it comes to the wide margin of quality when it comes to superhero movies, especially MCU movies or well Marvel movies. Um, and I also want to preface that I've had my issues with the MCU for a long time. Um, the way that they've like muddied the messages and I guess you can call it the politics of um, of Marvel comics, especially original Marvel comics, uh, and and making them as unfortunate as it is, just like an ad, basically. Like this is going to sound really weird, but in the MCU, the Avengers are just like cops for like America. I know that sounds really strange to say, but that's because it's like they're directly under the tutelage of Shield, but when in canon in normal Comic 616, they're an abstract entity separated from any government, which was the whole reason why Civil War broke out in the first place. Um, and it gives a really weird connotation that you have like gods and so on and so forth being an extension of the US, which even gets even weirder whenever there was movies in the past before there was like a lot of contracting that was being done with like the Department of Defense, uh, because obviously they have to have those for the military shit in the movies. There was like a lot of critiquing of like the modern U.S. So I don't know. It was just a little. Uh, I've always thought it was a little weird. And I want to say that I think the best movie to have come out from the MCU is probably No Way Home. I liked Shang-Chi or Shang-Chi. Um, and I thought Eternals was decent. I thought it was a pretty movie, but I did not think it was a good story at all. Um, and other than that, Multiverse of Madness I also thought was really good. And it's a shame that a lot of people just didn't like it, but I liked a lot of the style that Sam Raimi had in it. Um, but yeah, all the movies from Phase 5 so far have just been like at a highest like a 6 on the scale, right? But anyway, the start to this movie, it's like it's fucking hilarious. I will say that there's a lot of jokes in this movie, and they are really funny. Because again, I went into this movie being like, oh, this is just gonna suck. It's Marvel, it's Disney, MCU. It's not gonna be like anything really funny. They're probably gonna like water it down a lot. But no, the start did get like an actual chuckle out of me, and there were some moments in this where I was like, "Oh wow, that's really cool." Um, and oh, by the way, spoilers, 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 absolute spoilers. If you don't want to get spoiled, leave. I'm spoiling everything. I am spoiling everything in this movie. To the if I don't know, I doubt that the person on Twitter that I accidentally spoiled. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad about that. Um, but yeah. Anyway, the start of this. Oh, yeah, 3, 2, 1. The start of this movie is really funny because Deadpool obviously is like giving narration over the credits, and you can see like in the opening credits of the dun 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 dun, dun that like there's Deadpool in it now and shit. Um, which is a little funny that there's like not other X-Men in it too. Uh, but he's like giving this speech. He's like, "How are we going to honor Logan's memory? We're not." And it's just straight to the grave at the end of Logan, and he takes it up. Oh my god, I thought it was so funny that like his body's like all rotten. You can like see the metal, the adamantium skeleton, which I was like, there's a chance that they might skip that and like they might not do that right of like having the entire thing adamantium, but they actually went really detailed into it and having specifically like the teeth not be adamantium, which is true. The teeth are not adamantium, just everything else. Um, so yeah, that was cool. Then the TVA shows up and he uses the rotten adamantium skeleton of Wolverine to kill like 2 dozen TVA agents, um, which I thought was really cool. And then we cut back, um, and he's like in this like really weird management salesman. And he's like being really heartfelt, but like at the same time, the way that the movie portrays him like supposedly being heartfelt is they put this like really cheesy music over the top to where it's like, is he being sincere or is he just being a fucking joke right now? Um, which is like I don't know. Also in my notes here, I heard that there was like 12 cameos in this, and there's a lot, and they're pretty good. But again, I don't care about cameos. I think cameos are cool. And I was definitely like, oh, that's cool, but like, they do not bump the rating up for me. It matters the story, and it matters like actually how it's executed and so on and so forth. Not just, oh, hey, this guy showed up, and it was this actor. Um, so yeah, the staple gun into his hair. I thought that was really funny, and then how the staples stayed in his skin, and then like at certain points you'd see like these what almost looked like growths or like mold, not mold, moles of like with like hair sticking out. I thought that was like it kind of looked gross, but it was also really funny. Also, Deadpool's worst enemy, menial retail work capitalism. Where he's just having his soul sucked out at working for car salesmanship. And then there's a 6 year time skip. There's another really funny joke in here where he's talking at this party and so on, where he's like, "Those are my thoughts on abortion, vaccine, privacy rights, and free market capitalism." And then he's like, he stops the guy from talking. He's like, "You get no speaking lines." Um, and at this point in the notes, I was like, so far I'm really glad that they hadn't dumbed down Deadpool. And the movie, even though the movie does technically fall under Disney slash the MCU so far, um, and it was really clear that at that point he was just putting on a huge character, trying to be as over the top as possible, right? Uh, Maybe it's not as quiet of an act, but whatever. Then we get to the TVA. Um, there's a really cool like scene montage of him like having his suit put on, but there's also like a lot of crotch shots of him getting like fucking groped in the crotch and being spanked, which I thought was funny, but I was also like, okay, I think 2 or 3 cuts was enough. You don't have to cut back to it 7 times in fast cuts. Um, Also, the Thor and Deadpool was really funny, but it wasn't Chris Hemsworth Thor. It was the other Hemsworth Thor, which I thought was got a chuckle out of me. And I was wondering how I was going to tie in to Loki, and honestly, I'm a little confused by the plot of this movie. If someone wants to help in the comments, I've been. Oh, also I should also say the best project so far of the MCU that isn't a movie was Loki season 2. That was an actual really good experience. Like that wasn't just like, oh, it was like a 8 out of 10 in terms of Marvel movies, but in comparison like to other movies, it's probably like a 6. No, like in genuinely, in terms of like TV and storytelling, it was like a genuine 8 out of 10. It was really, really good. Um, so I was really confused, and I was really worried, like how Marvel does it a lot, where they'll just kind of ignore everything that came before it, but kind of tie it loose, where it's like kind of vague. So it's one of those things where you can clearly tell that they're leaving it open ended, so that at any point they can retcon it. At any point they can like do something different or like market it differently or so on and so forth, which fucking sucks. Um, but yeah, it was later on in the movie, obviously spoilers, there's two TVAs. There's a rogue branch, and then there's the main TVA that was from Loki. But the main TVA was mentioning that like you just saved your entire timeline. Um, and then the guy was like, "Oh yeah, well your timeline's gonna like run out in like 1,000 years." And I guess that was kind of confirmed that it was going to happen anyway by the TVA, by Agent Rex, I think her name is. Um, which just didn't make sense to me, because at the end of Loki season 2, he stabilizes the entire multiverse and allows it to exist, and allows all the branches to simultaneously exist without them possibly, contradicting one another. So that is weird. And that really, like, I don't know. It just really docked a point. Uh, oh, fuck you, Disney! And he like smashes his head into the camera. Um, yeah, but the plot really does just boil down to join the MCU or not. Despite the fact that at the end of the Loki, the multiverse was allowed to exist, with the God of Stories and all the branches and the Tree of Stories and everything like that. Yeah, there was a Will Smith reference, and then we go through the montage of having like all of the Wolverines, which I thought was really cool. I was like, I wasn't expecting there to be so many different variants of Wolverine, but obviously, going in, it made sense. We finally get a really short Wolverine, which one looked really bad. The proportions of Hugh Jackman on like a 5'3" body with a normal like 6'4" head, it did not look right. Um, but that it was funny, and he also like had the like long hair. Then we cut to this like real long hair Wolverine, which looked like 80s Wolverine, specifically like Rob Liefeld Wolverine. Maybe I forget if McFarlane did any Wolverine or not. I know he did a lot of Spider-Man. But it also looked a lot like early 90s Jim Lee Wolverine. Then there was the Madripoor eye patch Wolverine. I'm pretty sure it was Madripoor. Old Man Logan with the shotgun. Brown Wolverine, the brown suit, and he also had different claws, which I thought was cool. And he was like, "Didn't you wear this suit when you fought the whole?" Oh, and he gets smacked into the tree, and that was funny. Um, the one thing that I was really confused by, and I was like, is this supposed to be like a reference to Days of Future Past or Armageddon or Apocalypse or something like that? Um, where where he's like on the X cross and there's a bunch of bloody skulls around him. It looked metal as hell, but I didn't catch what that was like a reference to. It looked really familiar. I feel like I've seen that on a cover of a comic before, but I didn't get it. And then the biggest thing, which was a surprise, and I'm so surprised that this didn't get leaked. Fucking Henry Cavill shows up as Wolverine, and he pulled it off pretty good. That was nice. I thought that was cool. Uh, Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I thought that was really cool, and he had like a cigar in him, and Deadpool like uh goes up to it, and he's like testing the bike and like like fixing it up on the workbench. He's like, "That's a big thing of muscle right there. I think we found the one." Then they find the worst Wolverine and everything. They make a little joke about, "He's right behind me, isn't he?" But then they also turn it into like a really funny gag of where it's like, "Sorry you had to join the MCU at this point. It's at a bad spot." um And then we hear Chris Evans, and I was like, oh, okay, it's Captain America. That's cool. And then like he starts swearing. I'm like, oh, it's a kind of grizzled Captain America, right? Kind of like Nomad. He's a little skinny though. Usually Chris Evans looks a little bigger for these roles, and then he yells "Flame on!" and shoots into the air as the Human fucking Torch, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Holy shit, I didn't expect that. That's the thing with a lot of the cameos in this is that like they are actually good cameos that catch you by surprise, and then they play a part, but at the same time it does feel like where it's just like, oh, haha, see, you wanted to see Chris Evans as the Human Torch again. You got it. And we also said that the rest of that variant are dead, so they can't show up in Secret Wars. Um, Kind of like how when Elektra shows up later in the movie, that she's like, "Yeah, Daredevil died," and you're like, "Okay, uh, no Ben in this movie." Which means that he's not going to show up for Secret Wars or anything. Because the thing with a lot of these are that the movie variant timelines where it is the exact timeline, right? So there isn't like other variants. At least that's what I'm kind of getting at. So like later on we see Juggernaut from the 2000s, like X1, X2, and what I'm gathering is that 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 timeline was the only version of those characters, right? That was the only version of those characters. You might see the same actor in many of them, but that exact version uh, was erased or so on and so forth. So like whenever it comes to like Elektra and so on, um, it might be a unique variant, kind of like how there's a unique variant where it's Henry Cavill or so on. But most of them are Hugh Jackman. Human Torch was dope. Got a little bit of a cheer out of me. But yeah, we also see the fucking Fantastic Four hover car, and it looks so fucking stupid. And if you remember, if you saw my my reaction to the trailer, I mentioned all like the Fox villain. I was like, oh, that's Azazel. There's uh not Bayonetta, Long Claw girl. I forget her name right now, and so on and so forth. I also a bunch of the references that I caught was Ironmonger leg possibly, or was it a Sentinel leg? I couldn't really tell which was which. Um, Also, this version of Deadpool knew the Avengers. Deadpool makes a reference to the woke mob, and it got a little bit of a chuckle at me. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. Um, but there's a lot of jokes in here that is just about Gen Z and like cancel culture. And it comes off as one like Deadpool making like a snarky remark, but also kind of being like a genuine caring person. But then also coming off as it being written as, haha, got him. We own the woke. And I'm like, okay. It would have been funny if it wasn't so obvious. Um, the Deadpool, like the toxically positive, like Canadian Deadpool, was really funny. Um, the speech in the car. I'm jumping through a lot of stuff. Is that the speech in the car where they were talking and like he was yelling and saying that you were God's worst mistake was actually really really heartfelt. Like Hugh Jackman gave his fucking all whenever it came to this movie. I could tell that much at least. And Ryan Reynolds, they did really well in this movie. Um, but yeah, that entire like scene was so good. That was a surprisingly well written and good emotional scene that I was not expecting from this movie. Um, and also the the entire scene where they fight for like 12 hours straight was really cool. Very creative too, and the way that like Deadpool sits back and he's like, "But I don't have any problem with that." And he's like holding the knife, and and then like they cut Wow. But yeah, I thought that scene was really cool. Where like they cut, they cut later, and like there's a bunch of blood everywhere. Like the entire car is soaked in fucking blood. Um, and you can see that like his one of his shoulder pads is missing and so on. So it kind of makes sense why the shoulder pads aren't there later in the movie. Which I was like, okay, that makes sense. That's cool. But at certain parts in this movie, Wolverine's costume unfortunately just doesn't look good. Um, like there have been a lot of iterations of Wolverine where he doesn't have shoulder pads and it is just his full arm, kind of like a tank top thing, of a suit. But if you didn't know, a lot of times with Marvel suits, they have like this vest that goes over another layer, and you can clearly tell where that vest connects because you'll see that like Logan's costume like raises up like this, almost like he's always hunched. But then his shoulders are down here, and it does look a little weird, and you can kind of see it moving around sometimes, because it's not a solid one piece suit. Also, let's get to the other ones. Was holy shit, Blade shows up. Fucking Wesley Snipes' Blade shows up. Um, I love the Blade movies. The Blade movies were a big part of my childhood growing up. I fucking love Wesley Snipes' Blade. Every so often, I will go rewatch the ending to Blade 2, where he catches the fucking glasses and he puts them on real slow. And then fucking Ron Perlman, he'll split in half with his katana. Or his, I guess it's more like a Shoto Blade or something like that. Or Tonto, but yeah, like his straight sword is really, really cool. But we don't see that straight sword in the like vampire slaying sword in this movie, which was really unfortunate. Um, One, we get Elektra. Two, we get Wesley Snipes' fucking Blade. Three, we get Channing Tatum Gambit. Holy fucking shit. Um, and Deadpool makes a joke. He's like, "I thought you were retired." And then the movie makes a really unfortunate joke where Wesley Snipes just goes like, "R word," and I'm like, "Oh, that sucks." What a low blow jab of a joke to make an R slur joke. That kind of took me out of the moment for a second. I was like, "Oh, that sucks," especially as a guy with autism. But the West, but in my notes I was like, "Oh, they made that joke. That sucks." But hey, Wesley Snipes. Um, but yeah, it was cool. I really enjoyed seeing Wesley Snipes in this, and Wesley Snipes. I don't know if they had a stunt double or if he was trying to do his own stunts, but it did seem like he wasn't as limber as he used to. Um, it's kind of like Keanu Reeves in the John Wick movies where they clearly have to slow down, but he's doing all of his own stunts, which I thought was really cool. But Wesley Snipes had a lot of really really cool fucking scenes in this movie, and I'm really glad they did. Um, and then Laura shows up, X-23, but she's like an adult now as a variant. Uh, and it's not the original one, which is interesting because there's a little bit of a dynamic there where she's like, "Oh, you remind me of my Wolverine. He was a drunk and like asshole and everything like that." Gambit's uh, Channing Tatum's accent, his Louisiana, New Orleans accent is okay. It's not the best. It's really good at some parts, but also really toeing the line at bad at others. Um. Oh yeah. Okay. Also, I wanna. People are gonna probably get mad at me, like, "Oh my god, who cares?" Going back to the joke about the retired joke. I guess that could have been a joke. That Blade came out in the '90s, but again, tasteless low blow, and it does suck that it also transitioned into being canceled by the woke mob joke. And it's also really surprising that fucking Disney let that into their baby child MCU, right? Like, you would. There's going to be a lot of noise being made about that, I have a feeling, but also at the same time, probably not because it was such a one off that they did it so quickly that they also then immediately jumped into the joke. where a lot of people will be like, "Oh well, we really destroyed the woke." Um, but yeah. Anyway, all the Deadpools then come. Oh yeah, we get a really cool scene. The movie's pacing really like fucking gets all over the place because the first half of this movie is really really good. In terms of like pacing and like how it's going and like how it's like introducing stuff and then like Nova and then fighting and then seeing like the other X-Men characters and then like introducing like the main villain and so on. And I thought there was like a really cool scene of like where Charles Xavier's sister Nova like almost died, and her powers, by the way, are really cool, like where they like fuse into shit. I thought that was some really cool CGI uh in a movie where some of the CGI looks kind of okay. But yeah, they go through trying to stop the portal, and then Cassandra Nova comes out and wants to use it herself to destroy all realities, which is such a weird motivation. It's like, did they really have to make it an entire multiverse threat for a Deadpool movie instead of it just having a bunch of multiverse characters? Um, Also, here are all of the variants of Deadpool that I saw coming out. There was the cowboy. There was a Welsh Deadpool, 1914 kind of gas mask. At first, I was like 1602, but gas masks weren't in 1602. They weren't invented yet. They were invented in 1904, or 1911. I'm pretty sure, or something like that. There was this like mask thing. Then there was the kid Deadpool, which thankfully, but also not thankful, which also unfortunately didn't make like a fucking Gen Z skibbity toilet joke. I was really expecting them to go that way, but I'm also glad they didn't. Normal Deadpool, another normal Deadpool, a Flash fucking Deadpool, where it's like in this like futuristic suit. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be um, Deadpool 2099. Let me look it up real quick. Yeah, it was. Okay. I was really good at spotting that. The weird goggles thing was Deadpool 2099. Then there was this weird white cloaked Deadpool, right in like Japanese samurai. I said Raiden from like MK Deadpool, the flying head Deadpool, big red cloak Deadpool in the background, and then a weird hair Deadpool that's over in the background that we never get a full focus on. Um, the multiverse is over. Man, they really need something with that whole. Like blatantly saying the multiverse is over, and my note here is, man, they really needed something with the whole Kang situation and do a hard left into something else. um, and I thought that was funny. Which it's like, yeah, what are they gonna do with Secret Wars and Kang Dynasties? Are they gonna redo that, or what are they gonna do with like the Fantastic Four and so on and so forth? Because this movie seems like it was going to introduce mutants into the MCU, but then it's like a self-contained story of being like, oh, yep, Deadpool is in the multiverse, but he's not in 616. I wonder what would happen there. Despite the fact I was expecting there to be like a moment where like 616 and another universe like collide together and it like retroactively retcons things to where like mutants always existed and then therefore also brought the Fantastic Four into that same timeline. So instead of Tony Stark being the first superhero in the 2000s, it was the Fantastic Four in the 60s, but that didn't happen. And then we get to the end where they're in the subway, and then there was the little thing where it's where the scene of like the phone turns off, and there was like the Secret Wars joke, but that joke wasn't actually in the movie. Um, uh, oh yeah, then he puts on the mask and he wears the mask for like a good like 5-10 minutes, and I thought that was really cool. But at some points, the mask doesn't look good. I think it's because it is CGI, which is really fucking stupid. But at the same time, I did like the way that it looked. It was really cool seeing Hugh Jackman actually in the mask. Um, and then there was a really cool scene of like them holding together. It was clearly supposed to be emotional, but it wasn't like really emotional to me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then we get to see, wow, yay, dehydrated Hugh Jackman. Look how ripped he is, guys. Um, Look how much he suffered himself to look good on camera. Um, which I just want to mention, can we bring back like actors not being fully dehydrated for roles and like look like they're fucking roided up? You can look buff and look really lean and aesthetic without being completely dehydrated. Especially as a guy that has been going to the gym and has been doing a lot of like fitness for like almost a decade. It's really unfortunate to see that kind of stuff because it paints like a really stereotypical image that it is kind of damaging to a lot of people's self-image. Anyway, you would think that that explosion that got both of them, and also probably should have destroyed part of their costumes, but it only destroyed Logan's torso to expose his chest as a joke. Um, a multiversal erasing machine would have done more than just had destroyed the bottom of a subway train, right? This huge thing filled with matter and antimatter would have maybe destroyed a couple fucking city blocks, right? Or like went off like a nuke. Or might have even been like a planetary threat. But no, it going haywire just kind of like implodes and does a little bit of damage to the room around it. Uh, okay. Um, but yeah. At this point, I was like, okay, did they actually kill them? Imagine if, watch this be the last, this is my exact note, watch this be the last time Reynolds plays Deadpool, because then Disney was like, okay, you get one more movie, you get to go all out, balls to the wall, and then we're making Deadpool PG-13 from here on out. Uh, but yeah, um, but no, that didn't happen. They're alive, and they made a shawarma joke, and they I did think that it was really heartfelt of them like talking between the glass. It was like, I'm gonna make the sacrifice, and he was like, you were the best Deadpool. Oh, by the way, I just want to mention that Wesley Snipes makes a joke earlier in the movie where he was like, there'll only ever be one Blade, and I was like, hell yeah. And then Deadpool looks to the camera going which I thought was Mahershala Ali is going to be playing Deadpool in the MCU. Um, but yeah, and then it kind of like speeds up and it just kind of ends. Uh, oh yeah, Peter Pool and everything like that. There was a lot that I'm kind of like speeding over, but the movie kind of just like rushes through it all. Um, yeah, I really liked it. I enjoyed it, but if I want to give it like a really conservative, um, like rating, I'll give it maybe like a 6.8 out of 10, maybe a 6.9. um but if I wanted to be really liberal with the like really generous with the rating, I'd give it like a 7.5. A lot of stuff in the movie, like some shoddy CGI, some jokes not landing, some stuff being lingered on, pacing issues, story kind of being a little muddled and everything like that, really drops it down. I would certainly say it's the best out of the Deadpool movies, um, but it's also the best MCU movies that's come out of Phase 5 so far. Um, but that's not a big accomplishment. But yeah, 7 out of 10. Um, it could have been a lot better, but it also could have been a lot worse. And I'm glad that it was able to stick the landing on a lot of stuff that it wanted to do. And there's a lot of cool moments. But yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot that I missed. I watched it really late. Cause fucking hell, I'm not supporting Disney. So yeah. Yar. Anyway, let me know what you thought of Deadpool. Deadpool and Wolverine. Have you seen it? Let me know what you thought down in the comments. Let me know if you caught anything, because obviously this was a big cameo fest, and that was like kind of its selling point. And again, if I was judging it just on cameos, I'd be like, oh my god, 10 out of 10 movie. Wow, holy shit, it's so awesome. Oh, I love references. I love self-referential. I love it whenever, oh wow, see, it's my thing, the favorite thing that I like, and it's in a movie that's kind of okay, decently. Nostalgia, but eh, you know, I don't want to end up like fucking Soups, the guy, the guy that drove one of his managers to near suicide by just freaking out over everything and not enjoying this story. Um, which is what I go into and why I read comics is cool action scenes and entertainment and stories. And this had a decent story, and it did feel like a comic book and had a lot of cool action scenes. But yeah, other than that, let me know what you thought down below. If you want to support me, I have a Patreon, CashApp for a one-time donation. Other than that, as always, I'll see you guys next video. Bye. Click!